Hi all, I hope you're all very well. That slightly strange sound in the background is my cat giving herself a shower. This video is about Anacrusis. This is a way of developing melodies to sound a little bit more professional, and it comes right from, I've got the Educast list here, go right from top of the list here. And I'm also going to try and cover some of these other words in here like conjunct, disjunct, scalic, arpeggio, range, answering phrase, so that you've got an idea of what all these things mean at once. Right, so for today's, look, it appears again there, look. So for today's purposes, I have written the world's most dullest chord change. This is the one that's the 4-chord song. We're in C major, as always. It starts on chord 1, which is C major, goes to chord 5, which is G major, then to A minor, chord 6, and then to chord 4, which is F. And I've kept the dullest accompaniment going so it doesn't detract from what we're talking about. Sounds like this. He said, "Come on, son." Right, dismissed. Now, this bit here is the melody, and I've tried to follow my own rules. I've started using C major scale. The most important notes are landing on chord tones. So over C major, E is the 3rd. Always hitting the 3rd is a great idea. I've got some repetition of the rhythm. I've got a nice range. I've got some big intervals here to keep it interesting, and the undeveloped melody sounds like this. This is the answering phrase. So it's not too bad. I'm actually quite pleased with it as a little sketch. Not too bad at all. So why is Anacrusis so important? When everybody's composing to a grid like this with Logic or Cubase or BandLab, whatever you're using, people tend to write square on beat 1 each time, and they write in 4-bar chunks, and it doesn't resolve in a natural place. When musicians are singing over a chord change, or they are playing instruments organically, acoustically, phrases tend to finish on beat 1 and not just cut off, and they tend to start either after beat 1 or before it. And Anacrusis is a part of a phrase which starts before the bar line. I've got the posh definition here ready for you to go. Here we go. It's the pickup, look. Okay, and it precedes the downbeat. So let's get rid of that again. We've got an example here. So this is exactly the same phrase, but what you can see I've done, he said, there we go, is I've added a note before it. So we are now starting on beat 4 of the preceding bar, and this is going to make it sound a lot more expressive. I've also been a little bit naughty. I know that tunes that start with an interval of a 6th are always really expressive. It's a very popular interval for writing melodies with. So I've started with a 6th before the bar line. So this now sounds like this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. Now, that's sounding a lot more expressive already straight away. Notice one of the things I've done to keep it tidy is that I've repeated the trick. So I've got a 2-bar phrase there. I've just made sure that I can do the same thing again. Now I'm lucky, the chord underneath there, this is the first chord in the cycle here, so that's a C major if you go back to the beginning of the video. This is a chord 5, a G major chord, so we know this G fits underneath. That wasn't by accident. Okay, so here we go again. So you can hear that similarity there helps tie the phrase together, makes it coherent. So how do you do it? It's very easy. I'll just cut and paste the melody straight across over here. What I did to start with is I used the brackets there, and I just dragged it backwards. Then I did my piano roll, which is Command 4 in Logic. You might be using something different. And then I use my control click to bring up the pencil. And now I can listen to it. See, without it there, it doesn't work, does it? It needs to be back in to keep that cohesiveness, that little bit of rhythmic DNA in there. It's so important. I need to do it there again. Now you can see this time, this note is very long. I might just need to bring it back to give some space. Oh, and now because I've used that, Logic gives me a long note automatically. So let's have a listen. This will be exactly the same thing again. Etc. You've heard that twice now already. So that was dead easy to do. You take up your melody and you use the brackets to drag it backwards, and then do Command 4 and open up. So we are preceding the bar line, and it just gives the melody that momentum, that sense of direction. It's really, really effective. Now, that's only using one crotchet. We can be more interesting than that. I've got some ideas here. So this one here is to make it a scalic run instead. So this was very, very simple. I did my brackets trick going backwards, and here you can hear I've got a little cell of C major. Now it's dead easy to do this kind of thing. It looks way more complicated than it really is. I'll delete it so you can see how I did it. Right, so I want to do a quaver run up to my target note, the note that's on beat 1. Treat that as your target. Okay, a quaver when we're working in 4/4 in Logic or Cubase or whatever is going to be 2 horizontal blocks long, because these are set to semiquavers. 2 semiquavers equals 1 quaver, and I'll just work backwards. Okay, now I can work backwards again, and I'm going down. I'm in C major, so it's all going to be white notes. And let's make it ridiculous. This will be obscene, but okay. So this will sound stupid, but it proves my point. I've just taken a target note and done quaver runs, quavers working backwards. It's not so bad, but it's too many for me. And singers singing that, or violinists, whoever's playing your melody, might get a little bit cheesed off. So I'm going to reduce it down to 3. Now, we had a G here beforehand to keep the cohesiveness going. This time what I've decided to do is demonstrate if we had one going ascending, sometimes we can be mechanical and just do it in reverse and descend. So this time that was my target note, and then I just used my scale, C major, and I used quavers again, and I just went up instead. So from the beginning of the phrase, copy the same phrase, now that's starting to sound a lot more expressive. So that is a scalic way of doing an anacrusis. Of course, to contrast that, we could have a triadic or broken chord way of doing things. So I've got one of those ready here, and I'm sorry to sound like a stuck record. This is why it's so important to know your chord change going on underneath. We know that the chord change underneath this melody is going chord 1 for 4 beats, chord 5 for 4 beats, chord 6 for 4 beats, chord 4 for 4 beats. In C major, that chord 4 is an F major chord featuring the notes F, A, C. Now that is the preceding bar to this bit here, so as soon as I press play now, it will be C major. Okay, the preceding bar here is chord 4, right? So I've used the notes from chord 4, which happen to be F, A and C, to work towards my target note, working towards that beat 1. This is all ahead of the bar line, so it's an anacrusis. And I've done a similar kind of trick there. I know it's a G chord here, so I've used 2 notes from the G chord, not all of them. And I've just done a little fragment. If you watch my video on writing melodies using fragments of chords, I've just sort of applied the same trick there again. And look at the same rhythm, 3 quavers ahead of the bar line. That is this particular piece's rhythmic DNA. Okay, not so keen on that one, and this is the nice thing about this. You start to be, trying different techniques out. You get to try different, you develop a preference, and we need students at Bishops who can do these evaluations right and work out problems for themselves. So of course, finally we're going to do a combination idea. So what we've got here is part of a triad. We've got a slightly larger leap there, a slightly larger interval. It's the 7th of the chord underneath it there, but we'll ignore that. And then a scale. Here we've got part of a triad. That's part of the triad for the correct chord underneath, which is G major. We're just approaching it with a tiny fragment of the scale. Look, there's no notes in between them there. Okay, and then a similar kind of thing. These 3 notes here are part of the triad underneath. It's an F major triad. This is a tiny part of the scale beforehand. So we're using a combination of scales and triads or broken chords to develop the melody this time. Okay. Okay, so how to do it then? You have your nice melody to begin with. You can always start with an anacrusis, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you've started on beat 1 or you've done it in a systematic fashion and you want to develop your melody, adding an anacrusis is a great idea. You draw your brackets backwards, add a bar, make sure that you are hitting notes in the chord which is from underneath. Make sure that you've got some sort of rhythmic DNA that's going on. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Make sure that you experiment with doing scales, approaching your target note, or using arpeggios or broken chords or triads to approach your target note. And you can try using a combination of both. Don't forget to listen and make sure that you are making these judgments and appraisals and evaluations yourself. For instance, I didn't like that D there. Gone. Alright, and I think that would sound much better without it. Anyway, it's a different story. The cat's kept quiet. Everything's good with the world. I will see you soon, folks. And we're trying to do a catchphrase, but I'm not sure if it's working. Practice your craft and the art will come.